Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Surah Al-Baqarah, Chapter 2, and we will cover two verses 27 and 28. And the subjects in these two verses are reflecting on our physical death and commitment in life. The commitments in life is covered in verse 27, while death is covered in verse 28. These are the references, and all excerpts in this talk are taken from the meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. And this is our contact in case there is any query, question afterwards regarding this presentation or any of our previous presentation. Please feel free to get in touch with Tolu Islam. Verse 27 of Surah Al-Baqarah. One major sign of those who transgress. Allazina yankuzuna ahdallahi min ba'di misakihi wa yaqta'una ma amarallahu bihi an yusala wa yufsiduna fil ardi ulaika humul khasirun. I've highlighted some salient aspects which we are going to discuss in subsequent slides. And the first one is those who break their covenant, their promise, their agreement with Allah. And the next is وَيَقْتَعُونَ مَا أَمْرَ اللَّهِ بِهِ, that what is they are asked to follow, that is laws of Allah, they do not follow those. And as a result, they create fasad in the world. And fasad, we have gone through it previously, is related to conflict and chaos in the world and imbalances. And then word humul khasirun comes over here, and we will talk about it later. These are those people who shred into pieces all those responsibilities which are on them according to the universal rububiyat of Allah. Furthermore, they break that covenant which they had made with the divine system. And we can look at this verse 111 of Surah Tawbah, where Quran says that Momin make a covenant with Allah in terms of their life and their possessions. And in this way, by severing all those relations of being human, make individual self-interest as the aim of life. Whereas the requirement of the law of rububiyat of Allah is that by amalgamating these relations, consider the whole of humanity as one brotherhood and branches of one and the same tree. So Quran insists that once you have accepted Eimaan, then essentially you believe that whole humanity is one big brotherhood of human beings. And rububiyat means that their means of sustenance should be provided to everyone on equitable basis, and there should be facility, there should be arrangement for their self-development as well. It's a very towering aim, very big aim, but Quran says that you should start working towards that and then see how things fall in place over a fairly short period of time. The consequence of following this path is that imbalances become created in the society, and ultimately nothing is gained except destruction and annihilation. And we are living through a great time because the word of 2025, which is based on purely human intellect, we can see how much imbalance exists in the world of today. Next slide is to be Momin means to enter into a covenant with Allah. Fasiqeen are those who break the firm covenant made with Allah and disintegrate into fragments that which Allah has enjoined to be united. And in this way they spread fasad, that is mischief, in the nation or on the earth. And word fasiq, we have gone through it in our previous presentation, which means to fall outside the pattern or a model which is suggested by the Quran. And as a result, we fail to achieve those targets, those goals which Quran has put forward before humanity. The main points referred to in this verse have been explained in the discussion of verse 211 under the topic of fasad. Furthermore, what the covenant which is made with Allah consists of has also been described. One example is that agreement according to which a Momin sells his life and possessions into the hand of Allah. What I will do is the presentation on this verse 211, I will post it in the description under the YouTube video. When an individual accepts Eimaan in Allah, then he commits to this fact that he will obey every command of His. If he does not do this, then this will be in contravention of the covenant. Now, this looks very challenging and very difficult when we view it in view of our own desires under the man-made system. But once we accept Iman, then the path towards Deen becomes easier with passage of time. The term Ahd al-Shayye means to continuously protect something and to keep watch over it, sustained supervision. According to even this basic meaning, fulfillment of an agreement made with Allah will mean to observe His commands. So ahad means to, which points to making an agreement towards Allah. When ilah comes after this word, then its meaning is that of giving a command. For example, in this verse, Quran says, وَأَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ, and we can look at rest of the verse. The meaning of which we have given above also becomes evident from this, i.e., fulfillment of Ahd Allah in reality means obedience and observance of Allah's commands. It is obvious that this commitment will only be from those people who claim to have Iman in Allah. Only they can be the ones about whom it can be said that they had made a covenant with Allah, had made a promise which they now do not fulfill. So in the light of the Quran, what we are seeing is that once we have accepted Iman and made a commitment on this path, then we should not break this commitment. And the best way is to stay together and learn and then proceed towards the system of Deen gradually over a period of time by going through whole of the Quran. Next slide is consequence of failure to fulfill a covenant. All those people are included in this clause who claim that they have Iman, but in practical terms do not obey the commands of Allah. They will all be termed as being Phsyical. And this is the state of Muslims of today, because by virtue of being Muslim, they believe that Quran is the book from Allah and they make a commitment. In fact, 5 times in a day they say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. And then they also say, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. And then they go against it. This is the reason that at some places he has called the Zalimeen as being Phsyical, and at other places as those people who seek ways to contravene the commands of Allah. Momin and Phsyical are the opposite of each other. So in case we have become a Momin, then we must stay within the mold defined by the Quran. The one who does not obey the commands of Allah, the one who departs from his defined pattern, can simply never be called Momin. They are those who suffer loss, and Quran says Al-Khasirun in this verse which I just read at the beginning of this presentation. The word Khusran also comprises a breadth of meanings. The meanings of Al-Khasir are someone who has lost direction, one who gets killed, or an individual who is unable to succeed, who remains in loss in commerce. This is an important meaning over here, one who gets killed. Essentially, if we do not follow the Quran, our life will end with death. Doesn't matter what kind of a belief system we have, because we will not acquire that self precisely which is defined in the Quran. In Khusrun, both a reduction in material things and a loss of meaningful things are included, i.e., loss in wealth and possessions, and a decrease in intellect and Iman, and in eminence and dignity. The word Khusrun is used for both. The Quran has described this in Surah Al-Asr when it states, by the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss, that is, it is in a state of Khusr, except such as have Iman and do salih deeds. And we know about this verse, it's a famous one, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. And then Quran says, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And that is those who are going to follow Iman and then salih deeds are the ones who are going to be successful. So what Quran is saying is that your days will come and go away. If you haven't come to the Quran or you ignore the Quran, then you are in a state of loss because you are losing time and getting very closer to your point of departure from this life. The history of mankind is a witness to this fact that if man does not follow divine guidance, then he remains in loss and ultimately becomes destroyed and ruined. And these points which Quran is putting forward, these need pause and reflection. We cannot just pass through them and in a hurry and think that we have grasped it. These things need a lot of reflection and going through it over a period of time. Next slide is commenting on the loss caused by living devoid of guidance. Only those people can save themselves from this destruction who have Eimaan in the truth of the divine values and are acting upon the program defined by Him, which helps to manifest latent potentials. Because Allah knows what latent potentials have been kept within each one of us. And then He has sent this book, that is, He has sent His revelation all along for those latent potentials to be identified within each one of us and then to bring them out. And the Quran lays down the procedure and process for that as well. According to this program, such a system becomes established in which every member not only considers his own duty, that he has fulfilled the task which was assigned as being his responsibility, he also tells his companions that they too should remain steadfast on the path of truth. So it's not a path to be treaded alone, it has to be together. All those who become Momin, they need to come together and then work together. And whatever difficulties appear in this, to face these with patience and perseverance. This admonishing of each other regarding haqq and perseverance become a means of mutual harmony and discipline among them. And we know haqq means something which produces constructive results, which always produces constructive results. So that is what al-haqq is. And opposite of it is batil, which produces destructive results. They remain treading on this path resolutely and persistently, and in this way continue to leave the marks of their footsteps on their era for coming generations. This is that Jamaat which lives a life of success and prosperity. Apart from them, the life of other people is nothing more than woeful tales of failures and unfulfilled desires. And we can see that in the word of 2025. If we look at the state of the word of 2025 through the lens of the Quran, we can see how much loss the humanity is finding itself at this point in time. And it is the responsibility of those who have acquired this message, have understood it, that to share it as widely as possible. And this is what Tolu Islam is doing. The pages of history are a witness to this. Note the emphasis here to leave the marks of our footsteps for those coming after us. Tolu Islam is doing exactly this, i.e. through his continuous efforts, Pervez laid down the foundational work for the system of deen in the light of the Quranic guidance. This is a tremendous effort made by Pervez, that he has outlined all the finer aspects of the system of deen, and we can capitalize on that according to the era in which we are living. We are now taking it forward in English for the wider public across the world. Hopefully those who follow us will pick up the baton and progress further. Human life at the level of the self, that is our I, is one continuity. Physical death only defines the end of the first phase. Who says so? Obviously, this is a statement from Allah that life continues beyond death. Allah, who created the universe and the earth to launch this program of His and created man with choice and intent to become part of this program. So here the important thing is that there is a program, and the important part of that program is the creation of human beings with choice and intent. So we are an important creation of Allah, and that is the way we should view it. And that is the way Quran wants us to view it. The Quran describes the outline of that program, inviting man to willingly make a choice to become part of this program of Allah. And that is an important aspect, that we should become part of this program of Allah. Then we will become an extremely important creation according to the Quran. If man decides to become the companion of Allah in this program of His, then physical death will define the end of the first phase of this program and will hand over the human self developed using the guidance of the Quran onto the next phase of his life, called the life of the hereafter. And this is important to understand, that death is not a punishment according to the Quran. Death is the change of one stage of our life to the next stage. This phase, that is the physical phase of our life, will hand us over, that is our self will be handed over to the next phase of life. There will be no further death for the developed self in the next stage, i.e., the life of the hereafter, and the self will continue its further development in this next phase of its life. Next, we will share some aspects of this journey of ours to reflect on physical death as a deadline in this worldly life. Verse 28 of Surah Al-Baqarah, human death and its significance. Kaifa takfuruna billahi wa kuntum amwatan fa ahyakum summa yumitukum summa yuhyikum summa alayhi turja'un. I've highlighted two parts, that is the beginning of the verse as well as the last one. And we will go through each part in considerable detail today. Kaifa takfuruna billahi, that how can you deny, how can you do kufr about Allah, who has created you. See, right at the beginning, Quran is telling us that you, and addressing us, and we can see how many yous have come over here, that you who possess I are being addressed, that you exist, your body exists, this universe around you exists. How can you deny it? And then it says that everything follows laws. Say to these people whose path of life is noted above, that on the basis of what logic do you reject, that is, do kufr of the law of Allah, whereas your own existence is living evidence of your own existence. Very important that we are a proof of our own existence. We simply cannot deny it. I'm talking and you are all listening. So it is a fact that I exist and all of you exist. Reflect on this from any angle. You will have to acknowledge this reality that there existed a moment in time when you are no entity to be even mentioned. It's worth going through this verse 76:1. Then life appeared in you. It is glaringly obvious that this life is not created by you. It is bestowed by Allah. After that, when you will die according to the physical law of Allah, what then will be so difficult for Allah that He cannot make you alive again? And this is a very important point noted over here, that it's not difficult for Allah to create life again. And in our case, in any case, we were once created. Hence, life does not end with death. Life continues forward. And to understand this, Quran has given us, Quran points to our cognition, it points to our intellect and reasoning ability. And life moves forward for the sake of the law of requital, so that everyone is held accountable, because we got choice and intent, and as a result we become accountable. And this accountability actually is a great favor for us, because through this accountability we develop ourselves and use it in our favor. Therefore, you cannot go outside the grip of this law. You can try thousands of times to escape it. You will have to ultimately return to it. That is, death will come to you and you will be held accountable as you live your life, and whatever you have done in this first stage, you will be accountable for it through the state of your self-development. Rather, take it like this, that every step of yours is moving towards it. And that is what it means, alayhi turja'un, that every step of ours in this life is going towards Allah, that is, towards the law of requital, which is holding us accountable for whatever we do. So let us go to the next slide, root of life, al-hayat. This is the root of life, or hayat. He lived or became alive. He made him alive. Life, it means life. To give life, it also means that. To shrink due to the instinct of self-preservation in living things. Also means shyness, shame, i.e. a feeling to step backward a bit. A snake is also called hayya because it moves by contracting and extending. According to Raghib, it means the faculty of sensation, the opposite of which is death. Some aspects of this root are. So life is where there is a movement, where there is a dynamism, and we can see that all around us, that life has appeared on this earth in various forms. The ability to grow in plants and animals, that is also life. The faculty of feeling, thinking, intellect, and action, this is related to human beings. Freedom from anxiety and sorrow, this is also part of that. That is becoming alive to what is going on within us and then making an effort to eradicate it in the world, and that is where the Quran comes in. So we have to relate various meanings of this root to our life and within towards the context of the system of deen. Life in the hereafter and its eternal state. That life with which only the being of Allah is defined, and Quran has called Allah as Hayyul Qayyum. And this is an important point which we have mentioned previously as well, that Allah is alive. No one gave life to Allah, and Allah provides life. So that means everything which we will do by coming to the Quran will give us life. Also related to giving life to dead land through the growth of vegetation. Also used in relation to the meaning of obtaining benefit. In relation to the life in the hereafter, the word hayawan has also appeared. Its weight is on fulan. Intensity and control, something appearing emergently, and the aspect of movement and anxiousness exists. And we should look at this verse and the verses before and after just to get the context of it. This means that the life in the hereafter is not the continuity of this process through physical existence, that is physical laws. Life will acquire a new form in this. So Hayawan is pointing to this fact that life in the hereafter will acquire a different form. The Quran does not call human physical life as being life. According to the Quran, the real life is the life of human eminence, in which man, in the light of Wahi, using his intellect and reasoning, keeps developing his self. So we have to grow out of our biological self, come together, and then create new life which can be of help towards the system of deen. Because then with this new life, we'll be able to see the problems in the world, and then we will have enough motivation and incentive to work together towards solving those problems using the light of the Quran. The next root is al-maut, that is root of death. And this is the root over here. It is the opposite of life, also used metaphorically for tranquility. Anything in which movement stops, for example, stagnancy. Fire was extinguished, wind stopped, sleep is compared with death. And this is another very interesting verse. We can go through it in our own time. Just like life is not just about breathing and has many aspects, similarly, death is just not stopping of breathing. For example, the Quran has said that every self will taste death, which points to the continuation of the life of the self beyond its physical death, various kinds of death. If any land cannot grow vegetation, it is also called as dead land. If human beings lose feelings, become insensitive due to some circumstances or environment, the decline of ineffectualness of human intellect and consciousness, for example, people who do not use their cognitive faculties, very important aspect, because if we do not use our intellect for the purpose for which it is given, then essentially we are not on the correct path. As a result, Quran calls us dead people. Human life becomes overwhelmed with huzn and fear, and huzn over here means extreme kind of grief, i.e. hardships, poverty, humiliation, a life of subjugation, perpetual grief and fear, etc. The world in 2025 represents this state for many millions of human beings. A state of stupor and craziness. Animals which die without being slaughtered, also human physical death. So both are, when animals die, that means that will be death, as well as when we die physically, that will be called maut. Nations which lag behind and live under subjugation are also called dead. In the Quran, we need to see the context in which this term appears in different places. Further elaboration of this verse. In this verse, one evidence which Allah has provided first of all for the existence of His being is that He has bestowed life on you. It is obvious from this how much significance the creating of life holds. Linguistic scholars have engaged in many detailed discussions relating to its fundamental meaning, that is of this root, which are not of any import to us, because we are interested in that part which is related to this verse. Opposite to this is the word maut. As far as usage is concerned, this word also has numerous meanings. Fundamentally, the words hayat and maut are also used for the physical meanings of life and death. The Quran also calls those people as being dead who are alive physically but whose human potentials have become defunct. So important is that if we do not want to be disappointed and regretful, then we should bring out our best, of course, within the permission granted by the man-made system. That is, whatever the man-made system has put limits on us, we should be satisfied that I did my best and brought out my best. In comparison to them, it declares those human beings as alive who, by using their intellect and consciousness, are treading on the path defined by Allah. And this is precisely our effort on this platform, to explore the Quran to the best of our ability and then go back and practice it in our day-to-day life by becoming extremely conscientious as well as self-aware in every aspect of our life. In whatever choices we are making, we should look at it that how can we get the best results in the light of the Quran. It also calls those nations dead which are in a state of decline. If there is any potential or ability remaining in them to achieve resurrection, then they can achieve life again by acting on the divine laws. And this is the beauty of the Quran, that doesn't matter in what state of death a nation is, if there are people over there who have vision according to the Quran and are willing to lead the nation and guide them, then within very short period of time, human beings can come out of their death-like state and become alive again. After the physical death of man, the next life is also termed as hayat. This is that life in the hereafter which is part of Eimaan. Next slide is acquiring Eimaan in the continuity of human life. In this verse, Allah has put forward the concept of the continuity of our life and pointed to the event of physical death as a permanent signpost beyond which a new phase of our life commences. We should look at our own physical death as the end of one phase and moving on to the next. And in order to look at it as the end of a phase, we have to follow the instructions, guidance of the Quran. For this, the Quran has metaphorically compared death to be like our sleep, like temporary death. We essentially experience death every day, with the difference that we expect to become awake after sleep. And this is a beautiful verse, which the reference of which is quoted over here, 39:42, that every night when we go to sleep, we should think that as if we are going to die, we are dead. And in the morning, with this hope that tomorrow will be a better day. And a lot of people die in death as well. So that is the way. It is not getting worried about it or start becoming fearful about it. The Quran does not want us to be fearful. What Quran wants us is that to get best out of our life by using our rational thinking and reasoning potential which is kept within us. And this is where the Quran helps. It takes away all kinds of fears so that we understand our own existence in relation to everyone else. In order to reach that level of certainty in the life after death, the Quran puts forward the proposition of Eimaan plus Saleh deeds, and to strive together under one lofty aim of establishing the system of Deen by becoming the companions of Allah. Even when working collectively as individuals while maintaining ourselves unity and integrity, we willingly make efforts to contribute to the collective effort. Understanding the self-development related to this striving holds the key to the elimination of fear of death and creates the feeling of high expectation, i.e. glad tidings of a higher life in the company of Momin. And that is important because discussing this aspect even occasionally holds the key to strengthening ourselves. We should keep in mind that the next life is also a collective progress of those who have learned to untie their hearts here in this phase of life. And we have gone through this verse of Surah Al-Imran previously as well. And I think one verse is coming up in following slides. According to the Quranic guidance, the acquisition of Eimaan is a real tangible change within our outlook, vision, and view of our individual and collective life in the physical world. There are certain actions and deeds which tangibly manifest from us in the physical world on a continuous basis. If there is no change experienced by us internally and externally by applying the Quranic criteria, then we need to review the state of our Iman and discuss it with others who we think have grasped it. Because we are not going to gain anything unless we strive for it. And Quran has said, "Laisa lil insana illa ma sa'a." Man gets what he struggles for, what he strives for. So there is a lot to do in practical terms. Merely accepting Iman and then not doing anything and not turning it into some kind of a practical performance in the outer world is useless, because it does not contribute to that self-development to which the Quran points our attention. Giving new life to the self needs the right priorities. First, we go through one verse. Acquiring Quranic life is an evolutionary process of coming together for the cause of Allah. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu stajibu lillahi walirrasuli iza da'akum lima yuhyikum wa'alamu anna Allaha yahulu bainal mar'i wa qalbihi wa annahu alayhi tusharun. O Jamaat Momin, and see over here the Quran has said, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, who have willingly accepted this Iman, who know what is the connotation, what is the importance of this acceptance of Iman. Give your response to Allah and His Messenger when He calls you to that which will give you life. And this is the beautiful part over here, that Allah and Messenger are two entities. But the Quran then says, when He calls you. So Messenger is the one who is representing the system of Allah, which consists of Allah and His Messenger. So any future system of deen will be a collection of Momineen at the top who will follow the message of Allah. That is, who will follow the Quran as a constitution. So there has to be some people at the top, a Jamaat Momineen, which should take that responsibility on themselves. And this is precisely the purpose of our platform, that we should aim to become that Momin towards whom Allah will bestow power. When He calls you to that which will give you life, that means these people, that is the messenger over here, has already acquired this new life to which the Quran is pointing our attention. And know that Allah comes in between a man and his heart. Becoming aware of our own thoughts is part of this new life. And this is a very powerful part of this verse where Quran says, وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. That remember that whatever you are thinking, you should relate it to the Quran. And whatever negativities come over there, you should overcome those by using the Quranic guidance, which means we should know about the Quran as well, and we should also know about our thought process. And it's not a difficult thing. With a little bit of practice and focus, we can achieve it. And that it is He to whom you shall be gathered. And remember all the time that there is a higher purpose of this life. And once we leave this life, and if we have come together here, then we will stay together in the next life as well, and will also join those who are already there. This is a very exciting aspect of our life which is put forward before us by the Quran. And if we look at it, it adds to our own satisfaction and our own motivation that there is a lot more to our life than merely passing through it materially and thinking that that is the end of it. This new life will put pressure on setting priorities right in life. Despite attraction for biological and material affinities which are kept within us, striving on the path of Allah, that is the system of deen, will help develop and strengthen the self. And Quran says, قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَإِخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وَعَشِيرَاتُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالٌ اقْتَرَفْتُمُوهَا وَتِجَارَةٌ تَخْشَوْنَ كَسَادَهَا وَمَسَاكِنُ تَرْضَوْنَهَا أَحَبَّ عَلَيْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَجِهَادٍ فِي سَبِيلِهِ فَتَرَبَّصُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْفَاسِقِينَ. And we can see again the word fasik has come over here. Say, if it be that your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your mates, your kindred, the wealth that you have gained, the commerce in which you fear a decline, that is, if we come to the Quran, there might be a fear of some kind of a decline in the income or in our business, or the dwellings in which you delight, are dearer to you than Allah and His Messenger. And we can see this Allah and Messenger appeared over here, like in the first verse, which over there Quran says that will give you life. The commerce in which you fear a decline, or the dwellings in which you delight, are dearer to you than Allah and His Messenger, which essentially means that you don't want next life. That is, you don't want the new life which the Quran is offering you. So Quran over here is making it very clear that once you have come together, then you should put your priorities right. And it becomes easier once we form a Jamaat, we form a platform, we come together and discuss with each other. Because these issues are faced by every human being who comes to the Quran. And the striving in his cause, then wait until Allah brings about His Amr, and Allah guides not Phsyical. So Allah will guide those who get their priorities right. So it is not difficult, it is only difficult if we think that we are alone. But if each one of us is facing the same issues, then there is a way to get out of it gradually over a period of time, and that will strengthen ourselves. It is the display of a weaker self that takes time to get out of the biological side of life and then come towards the system of Deen. We live in a very dark world. Only the Quran can help us to come out of it. It is not an individual journey, but starts from each one of us, and then helps to bring together the hearts of these individuals. And Quran says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. O Jamaat Momineen, fear Allah. We know attaqullah means that we avoid the pitfalls of life by coming to the Quran and enhance our own abilities. And be with those who are sadiqeen, that is, those who are convinced of the Quranic realities being based on truth. And the beauty of this path is that people will be on different stages of their self-development. Those who are leading, who are making more efforts, they are the ones who should guide others and provide them strength and stay together. This commitment with Allah is not a 1 day or 1 month or 1 year or a few years here and there. It is a commitment for the rest of our life. Why it is a commitment for the rest of our life? Because that is the way life is meant to be. Because life is going to end in death. And we will not get another chance to come back to this life. In fact, the week we have spent from our previous presentation to today, that week, we will never get it back. It is gone. So that is how we should view the time available to us in this life and the way we are living our life. وَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ لَوْ أَنْفَقْتَ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مَا أَلَّفْتَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ أَلَّفَ بَيْنَهُمْ إِنَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. It's a very powerful verse, and we should go through it in our own time, part bit by bit. And moreover, He, that is Allah, has placed affection between their hearts, nor if you had spent all that is in the earth could you have produced that affection. And this is an important part of it, that Quran is addressing the messenger that you couldn't do it. It is only Allah's message could do it. It is Allah, by coming towards Allah, that is through the Quran, that they have created new life, and as a result of that new life, all those who have created that new life have come together and their hearts have become united. Now they feel affection for each other. They wish to come together and remain firmly on this path, because the pleasure of this path is far higher than the biological path which human beings follow in this world. But Allah has done it, for He is Aziz and Hakim. And the beauty of it is that through this kind of coming together, we become Aziz as well as Hakim. We have gone through this aspect under our divine attributes. Since death is an immutable deadline for our stay on this planet, hence Quran says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O those who have accepted Iman, be muttaqeen, that is, learn to avoid the pitfalls of your life. Because if we get involved in these pitfalls, then we waste a lot of time of our life. Because life, if we spend in trial and tribulations and trial and error and trying to figure out what to get best out of our life, most of our life will be wasted. So earlier we come to this path and then make use of those who are already on this path and learn from their guidance, we can very quickly reach a very high level of our eminence and loftiness. As is noted by Allah, and do not aim to die except in the state of Islam. This path illuminated by the Quran is in the company of Allah. And Quran says, وَلَا يَنْفِقُونَ نَفَقَاتٌ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً وَلَا يَقْطَعُونَ وَادِيًا إِلَّا كُتِبَ لَهُمْ لِيَجْزِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Very powerful verse for Momineen. Nor could they make available anything, small or big, nor cut across a valley, but the deed is inscribed to their credit, that Allah required their deed with the best. Physical death, becoming conscious of it. Every human being entering the world through a biological process has a physical body, and this physical body has a finite time to live. And this is a fact. We are here for a finite time. With every passing week, we are closer to our first stage of our life, that is the physical death. That which is called death defines the end of its journey in this world. Being conscious of this fact is part of the development process of the human self, because the more we are conscious of it and the more we are aware of the passing time and the more we are putting our effort to strengthen ourselves by staying together and contributing towards these efforts, the more we will become strong as well as steadfast, and we will be very patient. The world around 2025 will be very clearly visible to us that it can be changed. It is not that this is impossible task. It can become possible once we get power from Allah by staying together and staying as Momineen. Hence death, which is universal, is a permanent value. The Quran factually noted this by saying, Kullu nafsin zaikatul maut. Every self, that is nafs, will taste death. It can also be experiencing death. And this is a beautiful way of stating a fact about human death. And no other book in the world can ever figure it out, because it is only the Quran, because Allah knows everything. So He has put it before us that this death of yours is just a stage as you experience your life or some event in your life, and then you move forward. There is an important aspect noted here, i.e., every self should develop to that level of eminence where not only should the fear of death disappear, but through Eimaan and Saleh deeds, a strong expectation should build up for the next phase of life. And Quran says, Man amila salihan min zakarim wa unsa wa huwa mu'minun fala nuhiyannahu hayatan tayyibatan. And see over here, Quran says that they will get this life which will be a tayyib life, which will be positive life, that will be taking them to the higher and higher and higher stages of life in the hereafter. And over here, Quran has made it clear that this option is available to both men and women. And Salihah, we know it means to bring out our best. The next part of the verse states, وَإِنَّمَا تُوَفَّوْنَ أُجُورَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. And this is in continuation of this verse, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. On the day of Qiyamah shall you be paid your full recompense. And Qiyamah means the day we will get the results of our deeds. And this essentially is when we leave this life and the self which we have created in this world, a Momin self, then this Momin self will be rewarded with the life of the hereafter, where it will go to ever new stages of development. Only he who is saved far from the fire and admitted to Jannat will have achieved success. This demonstrates the importance of making correct choices willingly in the light of the guidance of the Quran. Physical death, expanding further. Through the consciousness of death, we become aware about three things. Firstly, physical death means that this body has a finite, defined time here in the world, i.e., this body is available to our eye for a limited time. Body is recycled. We all know that we are a biological beings, and once this body mixes up with the earth, it disappears and it goes back to its basic constituents. Whereas eye, which is for a higher purpose, that goes forward. Comprehending this intimate connection between the I and the body is an essential part of striving on the path of Allah. And that also should come to our mind, that why should we stick to this earth being biological, and the body which becomes sick, ages and grows old, and all these aches and pains? Why not aim for something which is far higher than our physical self? Secondly, since there is a defined finite life of our body, hence we need to take full advantage of this ajal, or period of respite, and through the recipe of Eimaan and Saleh deeds, not only acquire new life, but to take it as high as possible, so that our I enters the next phase of life at the highest possible level. And the highest possible level which the Quran has defined for this life is Khulqun Azim, which the Quran has noted about the last messenger of Allah. This includes coming together and uniting our hearts. This is not possible without making a concerted effort based on strong desire and need based on the acceptance of Iman. And for example, in the case of Messenger Ibrahim, Quran has said that he was an Ummah in himself. So as an individual, if we enhance our value, we become extremely important according to the Book of Allah. And this is all placed within our reach, and this platform, we should make use of it to enhance our value to the maximum which we can do within the permission granted by the man-made system. Of course, there are limitations of this man-made system, but those should not hinder our self-development. Since death ends our physical life and its time of arrival is dependent on physical laws, for example, balanced diet, exercise, environment, medical facilities of the man-made systems, conscious effort, higher aim, etc. Therefore, we need to strive to live as long as possible in good health. In any case, once we have become a Momin and we are doing Saleh deeds and working towards the system of Deen to get power from Allah, we should aim to live as long as possible. Maybe in our lifetime we can see those glad tidings. But doesn't matter, at least we will then leave this life at a very high level of our self-development, so that humanity can benefit from our efforts of Iman and Saleh deeds. Mutually reminding is part of living life under the shadow of this law. And Quran has said, for example, Surah Al-Asr, which I narrated earlier, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. That as a result of Iman and Saleh deeds, then they come together and guide each other, remind each other, admonish each other. Next slide is physical death, a few more points of interest. The Quran has cast light on death in a number of verses and has recognized the uncertainty and fear created by the thought of death. Being a biological entity, there is a sense of self-preservation kept within us, and we also wish to remain alive for as long as possible. So this is a desire kept within us at a very basic level. All animals have some sense of self-preservation, and same goes for the human beings. The Quran has addressed both through Iman and Saleh deeds, which take away all kinds of fear and grief. The important point to note is that just by taking a pain-killing tablet, a headache disappears. This path needs to be followed in order to benefit from the inner psychological change which is linked to human deeds. For example, about Jews, the Quran has stated, وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. They, that is, again it is in a plural sense, will never desire death because of what their hands have sent forward. And we can see what their hands are sending forward in Palestine nowadays. This is where understanding the law of requital and its functioning plays an important role. Too much emphasis on material needs also creates fear of death. Because if we try to hold on to these material needs, we will be very fearful of losing them. And if we become fearful of losing them, that means we will be fearful of the death. So the Quran is asking us that treat your life as a journey. And on a journey, you carry minimum material things and make whatever is spare available with you for the good of others, for the propagation of this message, for the helping others to come to this message, so that as widely as possible we can spread the message of the Quran and share it with others, so that the word can change into a better world. Fear is created by doubt and uncertainty, which are inner states of the human self, and by comparing death with our daily sleep, the Quran has put a spotlight on the link between our consciousness and our brain. Another fact is noted, La yazukuna fiha al-mauta illa al-mauta al-ula. No further tasting of death after the first death. A lot to ponder, because Quran, Allah recognizes that there will be a fear of death among His creation. So Quran has also given the recipe to overcome it. And now it says that there will be no more death in the life of the hereafter. And this is something which we should pause and reflect in our own time, and we will deal with it at some future time. It is about acquiring a psyche which is free from the fear of death. Next slide is what this verse 228 is conveying to us. The Quran has mentioned death before the existing life, then death after it, and then the life of the hereafter. It has called this two deaths and two lives. And about life after that, it has stated that following this, no death will become imposed. True importance is only given to the question of life after death because its connection is with the law of requital, which is the reality and basis of deen. So law of requital is the foundation of the system of deen. The existing life of man becomes the issue of physics. The relationship of kufr and iman is with life after death. Whichever individual is not convinced of life after death, he thinks in his own mind that in this life I can do whatever comes to mind. If I make some arrangements that my crimes cannot be witnessed by anyone, and even if they are witnessed, I do not have to suffer any punishment for them, then no one can touch me. And this is happening in our world today, that all these leaders and all those who are at the helm of the affairs think that they are not accountable, as if death is not going to come to them. And even if death comes, that means that will be the end of their life, and they are sadly mistaken. Following this, there is death, and with death, human life ends. To whatever extent a man commits injustice and excesses, its fundamental reason is this same false assumption, i.e. denial of life in the hereafter. So that is why life in the hereafter is a permanent value, and iman in it will be the foundation stone of the system of deen. And if today deceit and immorality are becoming so widespread, then the cause for this is also denial of life in the hereafter or of the law of requital, as though it has acquired the form of some doctrine. It is in fact a doctrine because most people think this life is meaningless and I should accumulate as much as possible, never mind what happens to fellow human beings. This is why the Quran emphasizes iman in the life of the hereafter, because as a result of this, human society remains in a balanced state, because it is human beings who are running this society. And if human beings have a rational mind, a balanced mind based on the Quranic values, then that society will also become balanced. And the selves of the individuals are also enabled so that these can traverse further evolutionary stages of life in a balanced and beautiful way. It is stated, He who created death and life, that He may provide you with an opportunity to test your own deeds. And He is the exalted in might, all protecting. Now, over here I put down a schematic. كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتًا فَأَحْيَاكُمْ ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. I have tried to represent through this schematic the various aspects of this verse. The first is no existence prior to our birth. Possibility of existence is there with all causes in place on planet Earth, including the divine energy called Ruh. This is important. When Quran says we were in a state of death before our birth, that is biological birth, which means that if the right conditions were created, that is between man and woman, between husband and wife, then your existence, that is the child, will come into this life. And for that child to get divine energy also already exists before the birth of that child. And this is something which we should reflect in our own time. Biological birth through a physical process, born with biological life, possessing choice and intent, that is the self. The verse addresses you And this is the beauty of it. Fahyakum, kum, you. That is, the verse is addressing each one of us. That is, our I is being addressed. This is tangible life where consciousness exists and one is aware of the body and cognitive abilities here, and the Quran invites us to question this stage of our life. How can you declare kufr of this life of yours? Because you exist, related to Allah, to know the higher purpose of your creation as human beings. And then 2 ways to live this life, i.e. there are 2 choices. One way is to follow own unbridled desires and live by the chaotic consequences of it, with death awaiting it at the end. And that is the animalistic level of life. And we have gone through it before as well, that under the man-made system, essentially we don't have a choice. The Quran is giving us a choice of an alternative system, that you don't have to live under the man-made system. If you follow the procedure and process given in the Quran, then you will be able to replace this system with a better system called Deen, which is opposite of man-made system. The second choice is to live life within the values defined by Allah in His book. Live life devoid of fear and huzn, and then taste death, and then enter into the next stage of life together. And then his physical death simply cannot be avoided. Hence its seriousness needs to be grasped, for which intellect is provided to all of us. This verse points to 4 distinct states of human consciousness in this journey of life. Death-like condition, then biological life plus choice-based life, then either tasting death or ending it. So choice is ours whether we want to go beyond our physical death, that is by tasting it and going beyond it, or we want to end it the way everyone else will end it who are not following the Quran. And this is a very difficult point to grasp, but we can discuss it in question and answer session. Then death with consciousness suspended, then final life. All this under the shadow of divine laws. All this is comprehensible if related to the Quran. Next slide is, death is universal and part of the human physical makeup. And over here I've put this bar chart, and we can see it is 100%. Death is absolutely 100%. The day we die, we know we are not coming back to this physical world. We should not hasten the death of others, need to think through all the contributing factors. And one of the advantages of the Quran is that we then value life, that how important human life is, and we should never ever hasten the death of others. We should make maximum effort to save others, and also pass on the message to them that you are not going to get another chance, and you should develop yourself so that you don't waste your efforts in this life. All our efforts, successes, and sufferings should lead to positive results for us, must not end with our physical death. And we can see, for example, in Palestine, Ukraine, and other areas where there are wars going on, that all these people who are killing others, they themselves are going to die as well. So why do they do that? And it is because of absence of guidance. By virtue of possessing a self, which is based on I, based on divine energy, we need to figure out the reality of human creation and its higher purpose, grow out of animalistic existence as soon as possible. Now finally, last slide of today's presentation, summing up the positive side of the specter of death. We have seen through the study of the Quran so far that there is a very comprehensive program of human self-development, the outline of which is laid out clearly in the Quran. And the first verse sums it up extremely well. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that it is from Allah, whose program of Rahman and Rahim is part of this program which is presented before mankind. And then Quran goes on to explain every aspect of this program. This program encompasses every aspect of the physical as well as the life at self's level. Nothing is left out, and with this in mind, we are going through it in detail. This is an extremely exciting journey and very motivating journey, because it's a journey of giving us eternal hope, immense hope, and also expectation that we are not alone. The man-made system can be changed, if we keep following this program of Allah and remain part of it. Death is not presented as a punishment, but as the event which marks the end of one phase of life and the beginning of the next stage of life. It means that up to our death, we need to study the program of Allah related to this worldly life. This is the aim of this platform, that whoever is interested to partake in this aspect can take advantage of it. It is a collective program of Allah. So if we are inviting others, we should tell them that, would you like to be part of the program of Allah? Then come to this platform and let us go through this program of Allah, whether it is for us or not, and then make a choice. Then we make an informed choice. While living in the man-made system, we do not know the higher purpose of life. We do not know what is the program of Allah in terms of our being on this planet and what is the purpose of this universe. The life really is meaningless without the Quran. In verse 228, the Quran has pointed to the continuity of life and has invited us to pause and reflect, to look at each stage of our existence intellectually and then reason it using the Quranic light. By making us aware about the existence of the law of requital, we are invited to live our life by becoming highly conscious of our thoughts and deeds, so that we enjoy this life free from all kinds of fears, and that includes the fear of death, and strive together to eliminate all kinds of anxieties, stresses, worries, vulnerabilities. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.